call the April 8th meeting of the Smithfield Planning Commission to order. If you all rise and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Our first item is the Planning Director's report. Ms. Clary?
Yes, thank you. Good evening. This is just a reminder to make sure that you speak into your microphones, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have. Thank you.
Anything from Ms. Clary? Okay. Moving on, just want to make you aware of upcoming meetings and activities. Tuesday, April 15th, we have the Board of Historic and Architectural Review meeting here. That is at 6:30. Board of Zoning Appeals meeting afterward has been canceled. Monday, April 28th at 3 p.m., we have Town Council Committee meetings. Tuesday, April the 1st? Just kidding. Would that be May?
Well, April the 1st was on Tuesday.
Yeah.
May 6th.
May 6th, we have a Town Council meeting at 6:30 here. And then our next Planning Commission meeting would be May 13th?
May 13th.
May 13th. We'll see you then. Okay. Item number 3 is public comments. Public is invited to speak to the Planning Commission on any matters except scheduled public hearings. Please use the sign-up sheet. Your comments are limited to 5 minutes per person. Any required responses from the town will be provided in writing following the meeting. Ms. Clary, do we have anyone signed up? We have Mr. Danny Below. Is that correct? I don't want to. What's your name? Yes, sir. If you'd come to the podium, state your name and address for the record, please.
Danny Ballot, 411 Ginger Loop, Smithfield, Virginia. I just come out tonight. We wanted to hear what the new plans is for the cottages, and I just want to let the Planning Commission know that we came with quite a few people. If they would just raise their hands, that we came out with a great deal of people. Some of them couldn't come, but we came out not just to hear, to see what's going to happen, because we have no idea. It seems like they've had meetings with the Planning Commission and the Town Council and everybody, and no one's had told us anything. No one's been communicating with us. We still have a big concern about the traffic. As was stated last time, we have one entry coming into our property, entry and exit. And we found out that the state, when they do their calculations, since that's a private road, they count it as one unit. They don't count it as 76 homes. So they're wrong about how they calculate properties when they, on a main drag, or main road, when they're coming out to the highway there, the amount of traffic that's going to be coming on that highway. So we just want to let y'all know that we're here, and we want to see what y'all are going to say tonight, what's going the builder is planning on doing. So thank you for letting us talk. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bullock. We appreciate your continued involvement and those of your neighbors. Item number 4, Planning Commission comments. Anybody have anything for the good of the cause? No. Nope. Okay, moving on. Item number 5 is our first public hearing, special use permit, 208 Middle Street. Diamond Humphrey is the applicant. Ms. Clary, we have staff report, please.
Yes, thank you. The applicant is seeking a special use permit in accordance with Article 3DC 28 to utilize the property located at 208 Middle Street as a child daycare home occupation for not more than 8 children ages 2 months to 5 years, Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. Town staff do recommend that any recommendation is contingent on the applicant complying with Isle of Wight County Building Code. Additionally, there was one received comment letter in the application packet. We have since received 2 additional comment letters that were concerned about the number of children and the noise that I have with me, and then 1 additional comment letter in favor of the application that was provided on your desk. Thank you.
Great. This is a public hearing, so I will officially open the public hearing. Do we have any speakers signed up for this item? We do have two speakers this evening. First one is Mr. Ray Gibbs. If you would come to the podium, state your name and address for the record, please, sir.
Ray Gibbs, 112 Royal Aberdeen, Smithfield, Virginia, 23430. I'm writing just to express my strong support for Diamond Care LLC in their endeavor to establish a daycare facility within our community. Having known Diamond Humphrey and the Humphrey family for over 15 years and witnessing her passion for early childhood development, I firmly believe this initiative will provide an invaluable benefit to families in our town. Diamond have demonstrated exceptional dedication to nurturing children and enriching their learning experience. Her intense background in early education and child care uniquely qualifies her to create a safe, supportive, and stimulating environment for our youngest citizens. The proposed daycare will not only create a place for children to learn and grow, but it will also serve as a resource for working parents, allowing them to balance their professional and personal responsibilities with greater ease. By providing the quality childcare, Diamond Care LLC will contribute to the overall well-being of families and the community at large. Furthermore, the establishment of this daycare will generate local employment opportunities and foster community engagement through various programs and activities designed for our families and children. I kindly urge the Town Planning Commission to consider the positive impact of this project on our community and grant Diamond Care LLC a SUP to operate a much-needed child daycare business at 208 Middle Street, Smithfield, Virginia. Their commitment to creating a safe and nurturing environment for children and aligning perfectly with our community values and needs. Thank you for considering this request.
Thank you, Mr. Gibbs. Next on our list, Donovan Brown. If you would come to the podium, please. I'm sorry if I mispronounced your name. State your name and address for the record, please.
Good evening, Madam Chair, Vice Chairman, councilmen, members, and Planning Commission members. My name is Donovan Brown, 18274 Bench Church Boulevard, Smithfield, Virginia, 23430. I am a proponent of Ms. Diamond Humphrey as the applicant. She has demonstrated a strong professional background in child care. I've known Ms. Humphrey now for about 10 years. She served alongside me during my time as a student liaison at Smithfield High School from 2015 to 2016. She was a part of the cell phone policy committee. She's always demonstrated a very, very strong commitment to serving the community, being professional, and also ensuring that she has the qualifications to serve at the highest capacity. She's done all of her due diligence, and she is working with professional people. She's working with the community, and she's here to serve a very, very strong need within the community, which is safe, affordable child care for working families. And so we thank you so much for hearing her request.
Thank you. Public hearing is officially closed. If Ms. Humphrey is here and would like to speak to her application, we would entertain her at this time. Come on up to the podium if you would, state your name and address for the record. Welcome, Ms. Humphrey.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. My name is Diamond Humphrey, and I am the applicant for 208 Middle Street. I just wanted to thank everyone for accepting my request or listening to my request, and I'm grateful to be here tonight. Thank you.
Okay, if you would stay right there. Any commissioners have any questions for Ms. Humphrey?
I have several. You said you were relocating. What were your previous location?
So I've been operating since September 2022, and I currently operate within my home at 305 Farmington Place in Vince Grant, in Virginia.
Now, concerning your qualifications, is your education background has anything to do with child care?
Yes, sir. I'm a graduate from Virginia Tech, and I have a bachelor's degree in human nutrition, food, and exercise, as well as certifications for early childhood education as well.
Okay. You're aware there's been one other daycare application before this commission over the years, and they were subject to quite a few requirements.
Sure.
Now, concerning the safety of the kids, what would you do for injuries, first aid, their safety?
So the requirements from the state in order for me to be licensed require that me and all of my staff are MIT certified, which is medication administration training, as well as first aid, CPR training as well. So those are certifications that anyone who works with children have to have and be recertified every 2 years.
How many employees you anticipate having?
So the requirement for a license is 4 children or 16 points per person employed. So with me having 8 children, I'm planning on keeping low ratios to ensure safety. So that would require one additional part-time employee.
Have you talked to the neighbors concerning what you're about to do?
I'm sorry?
Have you talked to the neighbors?
No, sir, I have not.
No? So there will be, you will know no concerns that anybody in the neighborhood would have. You're licensed by the state?
I'm sorry?
You will be licensed by the state, yes?
Yes, sir. It is required for anyone who provides childcare for children, for more than 4 children in their home are required to be licensed by the state through the Department of Education.
And you have that license now?
I have to obtain a special use permit in order to apply for my license and go through inspections.
Okay. There was one other condition from the previous application, maintaining a roster of all children
Sure.
and providing it to the town upon request?
Sure.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other
Excuse me.
questions for this applicant?
Yes.
Ms. Smith?
I do. We did receive, we did receive a letter of concern about traffic.
Yes, ma'am.
In your experience, what you have right now, what are the drop-off times and pickups? Do you have a lot of traffic in and out of your driveway?
Sure. So the house that I am, 208 Middle Street, has a gravel driveway. And so the idea that I currently do now is contracted hours, scheduled pickups and drop-offs, so that there's a staggering in between the traffic coming in and out of the house.
Okay. And you have a maximum of 8 children, is
Yes,
that
ma'am.
correct? At any one time?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And currently, you have 4?
Yes,
Is that
ma'am.
what you have? All right. And are those kids coming in the morning and staying in, are they coming in at 8 o'clock and being picked up at 5?
There's
That type
contracted
of-
hours, so depending on the needs for the families that sign up, I can stagger. So the average child stays between 8.5 to 9 hours, depending on work schedules. I would know all that up front.
Sure,
To be
sure.
able to schedule those drop-offs to make sure that traffic is not more hectic
Right.
than it already is.
Right, sure. Okay. It's been a long time since I needed daycare, but
Yes, ma'am.
I know how important it is.
Yes,
You work, as a working person, you've got to be sure that somebody's going to be there for your child. So,
Yes, ma'am.
okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions for this applicant?
Not for the applicant. My question, I know Mr. Riddick, you don't like this. She's asked for this to go through from 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. I would like to suggest, even though she's asked for this to go to 6 p.m. because life happens and I don't know, with everybody returning to work, traffic on the road, intersection concerns, if somebody can't get there by 5 o'clock, are we going to be getting a lot of special use complaints and at 5 p.m.? I like her to keep her hours at 5, but I like to see the grace period till 6, just to keep her in compliance with the special use permit and not to get a hard time because her neighbors are looking for a technicality to get her out of her special use permit because she's picking up children at 5:15 because of untoward circumstances.
You can do that.
Good point, Dr. Pope.
I would suggest 7,
I don't know.
considering your
I think-
concerns, traffic, and what we're expecting here in the next few years.
I'm
with all
lucky
the
to get here by
development.
6:30, much
Yeah.
less at 5 o'clock.
Yeah.
So you can, it's because it's a special use permit, you can modify the conditions.
Yeah. For me, 6 p.m. would be reasonable because of just things happen. You don't know I don't know where your parents are and where they're coming from and what traffic concerns they're gonna have, but that would be my concern. I know as a parent, I've always been late, so.
Just to add on the conditions that were imposed on the previous SUP required the license to maintain like being licensed by the state. And then the semi-annual inspection reports that you receive must be submitted to the town within 30 days.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
You understand that?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Chair will entertain a motion if you're ready.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve as presented with the hours extended to 6 PM at my request, with the conditions set forth that she gets the compliance with Alawite County Building Code, the semi-annual reporting as necessary, and I forgot the first one,
Maintaining state license.
maintaining state licensure.
I'll second that.
And that's a recommendation to the.
Correct.
Recommendation, council. Okay. We have a motion and a second. Ms. Clary, will you call for the vote, please?
Mr. Bryan?
Yes.
Mr. Davidson?
Yes,
Dr. Pope?
Yes.
Vice Chair Smith?
Yes.
Chairwoman Hillegas?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Go forth and do good, Ms. Humphrey. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you all. Next item on our agenda is, if I could see it, I'm sorry, I'm flying blind.
Lockerbie.
Yeah. Is application from Wilcris Services. Alvin and Paula Rogers are the applicants. If we could have a staff report, please.
Yes, thank you. The applicant is seeking approval for an accessory apartment. This is in accordance with Article 2Q. The applicant is related to the owners of the person that will be living in the accessory apartment will be related to the owners of the primary structure by blood, adoption, or marriage, and the primary structure will continue to be occupied. The applicant is proposing a 655 square foot accessory apartment over a freestanding garage, approximately 816 square feet, and it will be 18 feet in height. The positives of this application is it will allow this accessory apartment in conformance with the zoning ordinance. It is not a by right use and does require an SUP. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, this item is a public hearing, so we will open the public hearing. Do we have anyone signed up for this item? There's no one signed up for this item, so we will close the public hearing. Is the applicant here to address any questions? If you would come up, state your name and address for the record, please, sir.
I'm William Campbell. Our company name is Wilcris Services. Our address is 213 Keswick Place in Smithfield, Virginia. Just wanted to thank you guys for allowing us to come out tonight and talk with you. This is probably hadn't been here for 3 years with my last presentation, so thank you guys again for allowing us to do this. I'm here representing Mr. and Mrs. Rogers at 105 Lockerbie. We currently have an existing detached garage under construction that we're building for them, and they want to add the accessory apartment above the garage area, which will not change the look of the garage whatsoever. It maintains the same look that was approved by the HOA. We answered all the questions about impact to the community and all that stuff. Would be a negative impact, no impact at all to the community whatsoever, because the member that's coming there does not drive. So it's just something that the family wanted to provide for their family member. Mr. and Mrs. Rogers are here tonight, so if you guys have any questions particular to them, they'd be more than happy to come up here and answer questions for you.
Okay, great. Thank you. Planning Commission members have any questions for the applicant's representative?
I have two.
is this living space exist now, or are they adding it on to the garage?
The structure itself will not be changed externally at all. It's being added to the inside of the structure that will be existing, that's already approved for construction.
The second story is already added?
It's in the attic space. It's a
Attic
12,
space.
it's a 12 pitch unit. So when it was designed to have storage area or possibly living space up there if they ever needed it. So moving forward with the construction, they decided that their family member needed that, so that's why we're applying for a special use permit to go ahead and finish that structure off as an apartment.
Okay, so it's no building, it's just remodeling the inside of the
Yes,
structure.
sir, it's adding the interior walls and the bathrooms and heat and air conditioning and all that stuff to the existing structure that's there.
And you requesting a new driveway?
Yes, sir, the driveway was already approved for the right-of-way for that, and we've already made the driveway cut through the town.
Is this a private road or is town-owned
It's in
road?
Cypress Creek.
Is it private or town?
It's town-owned.
Town-owned?
Yep.
Now, we have, it's encouraged that we minimize curb cuts. This would create 2 driveways for 1 lot. Is that
Are you
town?
referencing like the entrance corridor overlay where we minimize curb cuts for our commercial access, where we encourage
So it's not,
sharing?
wouldn't apply to residential?
No.
Okay, all right, thank you.
And the only reason for the curb cut is because of the detached garage that's there, and that the owner's going to be using for his cars. There will not be any additional automobiles added for the person living in the apartment.
Thank you.
Any other questions for the applicant's representative? Do we have a motion?
This is seeking approval for the special use permit, is that correct?
It is a recommendation to town council.
Okay, all right. I would recommend approval of the special use permit for the accessory apartment in according with our zoning ordinance.
Second.
Is there a second? Okay. Ms. Claire, if you call for the vote, please.
Dr. Pope?
Yes.
Mr. Davidson?
Yes.
Mr. Bryan?
Yes,
Vice Chair Smith?
Yes.
And Chairwoman Hilligas?
Yes,
Thank you.
Thank you guys for your time.
thank you.
Appreciate that.
Next item is also a public hearing for special use permit at 328 Main Street. Ms. Clary, do we have a staff report?
Yes, thank you. The applicant is seeking approval to rent 328 Main Street, which is an existing single-family residential dwelling, as a short-term and potential long-term rental property. According to our zoning ordinance, short-term rentals as principal uses are permissible by SUP only. No changes to the property are proposed. Positives, this does bring additional accommodations in the heart of the historic district. It is not a by right use and does require an SUP. Any recommendation should be conditioned on the applicant following the conditions outlined in Article 2Z 1A through I, except for item B. These conditions do require a signed and notarized short-term rental affidavit ensuring compliance. Thank you.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, this item is also a public hearing, so we will open the public hearing. Do we have anyone signed up? There's no one signed up to speak this evening, so we will close the public hearing. Would the applicant like to come up and say anything to Planning Commission?
Jim Collins, 1109 Cypress Creek Parkway, Smithfield, Virginia, 33430. Here to answer any questions you may have.
Great, thank you, Mr. Collins. Dr. Pope, you have a question?
Can you help remind me, short-term rental is different than Airbnb?
No, this would be an Airbnb.
Okay.
A short-term rental is anything less than 30 consecutive days.
so this would be a combination. I mean, we have the ordinance, the portion that you're saying is not applied deals with the 104-day limit annually.
Correct.
Which implies that it will be weekends, the 2 weekend days throughout the year. But this is going to be longer than that. Some of these rentals are going to be longer than the weekend, yes?
It would be more than 104 nights. This would allow the short-term rental as a principal use of the property.
Okay, just wanted to understand it. make
At
it
different
clear.
times through the year, yes.
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 I mean, someone could rent for the weekend, and someone could rent for the week or a month.
Right.
Yes, okay, thank you.
We're currently renting it as midterm with people moving in and out. People call and say, hey, we need a place to stay. So we rent it for midterm, but we'd want the opportunity for a short-term rental. We've been asked before, hey, can you do 2 weeks? And no, not allowed.
Well, it's an ideal location.
Yeah, it is.
You've just done a lot of renovating there, right?
Well, before we purchased it, yes. He
Right.
did a complete gut,
Yeah.
yes.
I'm aware of the property, and it's, yeah, that's good. Thank you.
It's a great-looking property. Other questions for the applicant? Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion. We accept the, well, make a recommendation that we accept the application as presented with the town staff conditions concerning the zoning ordinances, those that apply.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
And that's a recommendation to town council.
To council.
Yes.
To town council.
We have a motion and a second. Ms. Clary, call for the vote, please.
Mr. Davidson?
Yes.
Dr. Pope?
Yes.
Mr. Bryan?
Yes.
Vice Chair Smith?
Yes.
And Chairwoman Hillegas.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, appreciate it.
Great.
Thanks, Mr. Collins.
Thanks, Jim.
Item number 8 is Eco Review, 1607 South Church Street. Denise Alejandro is the applicant. Ms. Clary, do we have a staff report?
Yes, thank you. The applicant is seeking entrance corridor overlay review and approval for the installation of 2 signs. The proposed 60 by 25 inch non-illuminated awning sign will have a purple background with gold and white lettering. There will also be a 78 by 18 inch panel insert for the detached sign. It'll be black opaque background with white lettering. There are 2 existing ground mounted lights that illuminate the existing detached sign. We do recommend that approval of the detached sign is contingent on the installation of the required landscaping for detached signs and then the submission of the $30 sign permit fee. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Clary. Is the applicant here to speak to the application? No?
They're meditating.
Okay. Well, what say you, fellow commissioners?
I think it's a nice-looking sign that's attached on the building, and the sign that'll be on the road looks great. So I recommend approval as presented.
I would have one question.
Ms. Brown?
You mentioned the landscaping. Yeah, I know the applicant's not here, but Tammy, Director Clary, landscaping, what are they proposing?
So the owners we are trying to get in contact with the owners so that we can get a landscaping plan. We didn't want to separate the application and only bring one sign now and one sign once we did have that. That's why we're requesting that the approval be conditioned on the installation of the required landscaping for that sign to bring it into compliance.
And you have a minimum requirement, what they should be doing there?
Yes, yes, sir.
Okay, all right, thank you.
There is landscaping there now. I mean, in front of the building. This is,
But around the
But
sign.
not around the sign.
Around the sign.
well, this is going to be over by Tammy's Haircuts, huh? Okay.
Again, we're dealing with the applicant versus the
I-
owner, and
I
so that's
understand now.
some of our issue.
I understand.
Other questions or concerns about this application? Ms. Smith, was that a motion?
It was indeed,
Okay, do we have a
I'll
second?
second.
Staff recommendation.
with staff
With
recommendations.
staff
yes.
recommendation.
I'll second.
Mr. Bryan, you second that? Thank you. Ms. Clary, call for the question, please.
Mr. Bryan,
Yes.
Mr. Davidson,
Yes,
Dr. Pope,
Yes.
Vice Chair Smith,
Yes.
and Chairwoman Hillegas.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Our next item is another eco review and PC waiver, 837 West Main Street. David and Christina Lenberger, the applicants. Ms. Clary, do we have a staff report, please?
Yes, thank you. The applicants are seeking entrance corridor overlay review and approval for the installation of a double-sided panel sign replacement on an existing non-conforming detached sign. They will be painting the pole black. It's a 61 by 94 inch panel insert for the detached sign. It will have black opaque background with 5 various colors for the logo and lettering. Because the existing sign is non-conforming, the applicants are also seeking a planning commission waiver in order to reface the sign. We do recommend that approval is contingent on the applicants installing the required landscaping to the best of their ability based on the restrictions present on the property and payment of the sign permit fee and landscaping bond. Thank you.
Thank you. Are the applicants here to speak to this application? No? Okay. Well, I don't know if they need a sign. We tried to go there Sunday for breakfast, and it was waiting in the parking lot, so maybe next time. Any planning commission comments or concerns?
Only thing I have a concern about are required landscaping. Does that require a tree, or is it just low-level shrubs?
No trees.
It's low shrubs and ground covers.
Ground signs, yeah.
there's nothing.
Through the grapevine, I heard they were required to plant trees, and I said, that doesn't make sense that close
No.
to the road.
Okay.
Okay.
Any other issues?
It looks to me like the new sign is certainly better than what was at Main Street before.
Well, it's
That business has had
catchier.
so many owners that now this is the people that own Fat Boys?
Yes,
Yeah.
it's my understanding, yeah.
My only, I'm for the sign, but the only thing we've been trying to minimize on our sign is 7 different colors within the sign. You know, we've always been trying to stay monochromatic and somewhat subdued, but I understand why it's got 7 different colors, but 7 different colors is a lot of colors in a sign. And other than caliber collision, I don't think there's another sign with 7 colors in it. That's my only concern. We've always just asked for subdued. I'm not going to say no to the application, but it's a very
understand.
colorful
I
sign.
understand your point.
I'm not sure subdued is always better, though.
No,
Yeah.
I get that, but we've tried to maintain earth tones and those types of,
And I had that same thought when I was looking at it as well. And I don't know if it was my excitement over having them open up again, or if it was the fact that I really do like the sign, and they're on the highway trying to catch people's
It's
attention.
certainly eye-catching.
Yes, it is.
to
It
me, it
is.
has a nostalgic effect.
It does.
Tasty
And-
freeze kind of feel.
Yeah,
It does.
and with the neon on there. So,
And it does seem the landscaping needs some improvement.
well.
I mean, this is the entrance card overlay.
Well, and that's, if you would make a motion, you could put that contingency in your
Right.
motion for recommendation.
Not knowing what they would do.
Well,
And
Ms. Clary and Mr.
Right.
Cluck are not going to
Yeah.
let them just,
yeah.
put rocks and yuccas in there, probably.
I would-
They have the space to make improvements. We're going back to, like, when we looked at the sign for the 7-Eleven vape store, we weren't going to ask them to tear up asphalt to put in
Right.
shrubs.
Right.
They have the space.
There's-
They can
there's a little
certainly
room
put
to
in a few shrubs.
make some
You know,
improvement
whether
there,
it's
yeah.
5 or 6 or 8,
Yeah.
it's not overly indulgent of us to ask.
Right.
Looks like there's 2 little shrubs there now.
Yeah. Any other questions or concerns?
I don't have any.
Chair will entertain a motion when you're ready.
So I'll make a motion to approve as presented because because the staff has already recommended they have a required landscaping plan in the payment of the sign permit fee and landscaping bond that's necessary.
I'll second that.
Okay, it's been a motion and a second. Ms. Clary, would you call for the question, please?
Dr. Pope?
Yes.
Mr. Davidson?
Yes,
Mr. Bryan?
Yes.
Vice Chair Smith?
Yes.
And Chairwoman Hilligas?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next is another interquarter overlay review, 1807 South Church Street. Danielle Diaz is the applicant. Ms. Clary, do you have a staff report, please?
Yes, thank you. The applicant is seeking entrance corridor overlay review and approval for the installation of 5 white vinyl window signs. There's 3 19 by 60-inch wide, about 7.9 square feet, that will be placed over each set of doors, and then 2 smaller white vinyl signs that will be installed at the main entrance to the gym. They do comply with our sign ordinance, Article 10, as they do not exceed 10% of the glass area. We do recommend that approval of the entrance corridor overlay application is conditioned on the submission of a $30 sign permit fee. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Is the applicant here to speak to the application? We're not batting the 1,000 here tonight, kids.
apparently Raw Fitness didn't work out, huh?
No, they
moved.
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 They
They
moved.
moved.
Uh,
Yeah, they moved. Questions or concerns from the planning commission?
They're asking for so many signs. I would rather the applicant be here to answer some questions. I mean, these signs, I don't know if they're redundant. Or they,
There's one for each door, apparently.
yeah, but there, you have signs on the, above the doors. They want signs in the windows. And I don't know what's there, what's left. I mean, this is a, what was it, Raw Fitness there
Sometimes they
before?
do-
Raw Fitness was
Sometimes
there.
they do these window signs for privacy, so it may be that that's going to be, a group class. I know we had that come up with one of the ballet studios
Right.
previously.
Yes.
Yes.
And they wanted that as
Right.
a screen, so you couldn't see their clients.
Yeah, I'd be concerned about the clutter it may create.
Well, part of it's shielded by landscaping.
We were talking about how many colors is on this,
But
this
those
restaurant.
are going away. Those are going away.
They are going away.
Right, it's got an X through it.
But they have a sign over each door.
Yeah.
They want a sign above that?
The sign is for the Fit Body Boot Camp,
Right,
correct?
Do they want an additional sign up on the
up on that.
facade
Oh,
of the
on the
building?
header area.
Yes.
No,
Are they asking
they-
for anything
no,
there, or
they just
just the
want stuff on the
window
door,
vinyl?
right?
Yes, it's above the door.
That was already approved, that was previously approved with the applicants. This is for the window signage,
Just the window?
correct?
Okay.
Wait a second. The signs above, in the facade, above the door, they've already been approved. Okay, and now they're coming back asking for these window signs.
Correct. The 3 Fit Body Boot Camp that are at the top of each of the windows.
Over
Sort of the
over the
transom
doors.
area over the doors.
So there's just gonna be one sign that says Fit Body Boot Camp up on the, whatever you call that area?
The flat sign that's attached to the wall, correct?
Just one?
Just one. These
Got
would
it.
be just window signs.
And that's at their main entrance.
Correct.
And what are these signs saying? Are they repeating the same thing that's above the door, on the door? What are they saying?
It's
No,
there in your illustration, right? That's what they want to put up.
Yes.
it just says Fit Body Boot Camp.
Well, that's what the signs above the door and everything says, same thing.
But that's what we're talking about, is that sign above the doors.
I think they want to let people know, Charles, that they have essentially 3 storefronts as
Yes.
the size of their gym.
And if they were 3 different storefronts, we would still have 3 different signs,
Yeah.
3 different everythings.
Right.
Right.
So,
They're just branding their
but if
space,
you look at
really.
their door, they have arrows pointing over it, don't enter at these doors, only enter at the main entrance.
Yeah. It's
It's
directional as
directional
well as
signs
informational.
as well as
Yeah.
advertising that they're there.
Any other issues or concerns?
No, I think it'll look better having all the clutter gone.
Chair will entertain a motion when you're ready.
Make a motion to approve as presented with them paying the applicable sign fees as necessary.
We have a motion, is there a second?
Second,
All right, Ms. Clary, call for the question, please.
Mr. Bryan?
Yes.
Mr. Davidson?
yes,
Dr. Pope?
Yes.
Vice Chair Smith?
Yes.
And Chairwoman Hillegas?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, item number 11. After the fact site plan amendment, Wellington Circle. Wellington Park Homeowners Association is the applicant. Ms. Clary, do we have staff report, please?
Yes, thank you. The applicant is seeking approval for after-the-fact site plan amendment. This is for the installation of an approximately 10 by 10 shed. It's about 10 feet from the fence that is surrounding the pump station. It will be used to store activity equipment and seasonal items. Staff do recommend that approval is conditioned on the submission of a $75 zoning permit fee. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone here to speak on behalf of the application? Wow, we are bust
we're,
tonight.
we're back 100%. It's after the fact, huh?
Yeah, I really hate those after the fact.
I really do too.
Comments or concerns from planning commission?
I think that was my comment.
And because this is after the fact, this is the second time. Wellington came here a few years ago with a picnic gazebo
After the fact.
after the fact. And now they're here again after the fact. Attorney Riddick, Director Clary.
So with the previous after-the-fact for that picnic area, they were inadvertently granted a building permit without a zoning permit. This structure doesn't qualify for a building permit, and so the HOA representative was not aware that anything from the town was required. Once we did identify that that structure was being erected, we contacted them, informed them that they would need to come and get the proper approval.
Wait a minute, explain the last part again about this small building.
It does not require a building permit
Oh,
from the county.
okay. But it does require.
But it does
permit from the town.
require a site
Because
plan.
of the size, it doesn't?
That is correct.
Is there
Those
some
of you
kind
that
of,
have HOAs in the audience, please make sure your person is aware of town requirements.
is there some kind of punitive action we could take? Like increase the fees for this application or something?
No, you can't do that.
Can't do that.
You can deny it, make a move, and get rid of it.
Well,
I don't know that that's
that seems a little drastic,
Well,
but,
I know,
Right.
but that's your remedy.
yeah.
Yeah.
No, this is the second time they come here after the fact.
Well, never mind. I can't make any guesses as to why.
Could be, I don't know if it's a different person that's in charge of
That
the
was my
HOA
thought,
now.
yeah.
Or, you know, it could be a number of things. In the grand scheme of things, it's, bless you.
Bless you.
It's, you know, it's a small shed. It's not like they're
No.
creating a
And it looks like
amphitheater
it's
or something.
well hidden, or, you know, back where it is.
Throughout this process, I did deal with 2 different people that had been turned over with the HOA Association, so I did have to start it from scratch twice, just because of their turnover.
Yeah, so that's probably part of
Okay.
the issue.
Well, perhaps they should put a statement or something in their HOA agreements.
A sign in the
No
ground.
rabbit.
Don't build
Required,
anything here.
yeah, any building, you should go to the,
Need a better hiring
yeah,
process.
community
there for-
development office. and-
Yeah.
The ironic thing is that the HOA is supposed to approve the way things look, and it's permitting, it's a semi-permitting organization for the community, and then they don't follow their rules, so. Unfortunate.
Okay.
What's your pleasure, ladies and gentlemen?
Make it is it a recommendation or?
Yeah, this is approval.
Approval that we accept as presented with them paying the recommended fees by the staff.
Thank you, Dr. Pope. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
There's been a motion and a second. Ms. Claire, would you call for the question, please?
Mr. Bryan?
Yeah, they need to add a statement to their HOA agreements.
We will have
Well,
staff convey that.
Yes.
Mr. Davidson?
Yes.
Dr.
After
Pope?
we slap them on the wrist.
Yes.
Vice Chair Smith?
Yes.
And Chairwoman Hillegas?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item number 12 is a proffer amendment and 2 SUPs for cottages at Battery. Nathan Deal and Brian Mullins are the applicants. Ms. Clary, do we have staff report?
Yes, thank you. The applicants are seeking a proffer amendment for the construction of 104 single-family attached condominium dwellings. These units would have 0 lot line dwellings as attached residential and feature some units with attached rear detached garages. Each lot would conform to the required setbacks, lot widths, and minimums as if lot lines existed. The zoning district will remain multifamily residential. It will feature a clubhouse, pool, along with sidewalks connecting Battery Park Road and Colonial Avenue. They are providing approximately 7.3 acres of common open space and 2.3 acres of active recreation open space. In order to facilitate this project, the applicants have applied for 2 special use permits. The first special use permit is relief from Article 3EI2B, which requires 1 recreational vehicle parking space per 4 dwelling units. No RV parking is provided. The second special use permit is relief from Article 3EI6B, which requires not fewer than 3 attached units and no more than 8. The applicants are attaching no more than 2 units. This application was tabled at the November 2024 Planning Commission meeting. This project does reduce the number of previously approved units by 46 units and provides additional housing within town. As a reminder, we do treat condominium units in the zoning ordinance through SUPs if they do not comply with the attached residential requirements. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Clary. Is the applicant here to speak? Could you state your name and address for the record, please, gentlemen?
Good evening, I'm Nathan Deal. Address is 4953 Exeter Drive.
And I'm Brian Mullins, same address. Thank you.
Welcome. Anything you want to speak to at this time?
Yes, we have been in front of you all before. We've looked at this, we've listened to you all. We've brought it down 30, or a third of the approved units that are now in the zoning and the code that we have. We've also changed the architectural. We've added all of the gables and tapered columns. We've started with 6 SUPs and 1 waiver, and we've been able to eliminate all but the 2 SUPs. And outside of that, any questions we'd like to have?
Thank you. Questions or concerns for the applicant, ladies and gentlemen?
I'm interested in the setbacks, the side setbacks and the front setbacks from what you had previously requested.
We now meet the setbacks as if we were under the residential code and your ordinances.
Okay,
So there's no specialized setbacks needed for what we're proposing.
all right, thank you. And I can't tell exactly from your renderings, you have a single car width driveway, but is there a little setback to the side now?
Yes, ma'am. If you'll call it a bump out, what you will, there's a place, it's generally one wide, as you state, from the street to the garage, but there's a bump out towards the rear where the second car can pull off to the side, and the other car can pass.
And we
That makes
also
me
allowed for
smile.
parallel parking on the streets to
Right.
require for the visitors as well.
Other
And
questions?
Well, and with the parking on the street, there's enough room for emergency vehicles?
Yes,
Not a
ma'am.
problem with that?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Thank you.
Are we getting any type of landscaping plan? Y'all said y'all are landscape buffered areas, this is to be maintained and protected. What's happening at the individual homes?
There are foundation plantings in the proffers, so that's obviously proposed. There are also, as you stated, the buffers that are shown on the site plan. There's a 40-foot buffer up at Battery Park Road. There is also a buffer adjacent to the commercial.
Street trees.
Yeah, street trees are provided in front of each house.
All the trees on the landscaping plan are there, because there are about 180 trees that are being
It will be,
planted.
yes, sir.
Yes, and staff will be able to review and approve, a final landscaping plan during the final site plan process.
And that will be bonded.
I'm concerned about the proffers. I mean, the location is not ideal, considering the traffic. I can see that you added the left turn lane that was suggested earlier. I commend you on that. You reduced the density. I commend you on that. But the proffers, I still don't see any value in the proffers concerning the town, the Isle of Wight, or the schools. I don't see anything addressing that, and that concerns me. Promontory, Sweetgrass, they do proffer, or proposed proffers, depending upon the conditions at the time of the schools, that they would do some proffers. This application says nothing about the schools or any other infrastructure. So I'm concerned about that.
Well, they had approval of the previous development. Are those proffers still carried forward to this, even though they're not written for, I don't even remember what those proffers were back in 2022 or 2021 when it was approved, but are those proffers now null and void on these proffers?
It would be, if you recommend these approved for approval, yes.
We did not receive any comments from Isle of Wight County Schools in regards to this updated submission.
It's still going to generate traffic, well, that's the wrong word. It's still going to generate students, but not any more than what's originally proposed.
It would be less because of the reduction in density. And the problem is, when you ask the school system to give you comments about the schools and the impact on schools, and they don't reply, it makes it very difficult for you to address that issue, because the law doesn't permit you to accept proffers if the school system has capacity. And we rely on the school system for that. And when they don't comment, that's problematic for the town to deal with.
Were they asked? Would the schools
They're
ask?
always asked.
Yes, we
Yeah.
always ask the schools.
Yeah.
But we know the impact on the schools
We
from all
don't.
the other,
No, we don't.
from all the
It's
other
a different
developments.
configuration.
No, we don't. That's the problem. You do not know what the impact is, Mr. Ryan, because the school system, this was approved, at the time the original 150 units was approved.
Right.
There was no impact based on the existing capacity of the schools, because several new schools have been built. And in this instance, they have reduced their overall density by 46 units, and the school system has not commented on proposed projected impact of this system on this development on the school system.
Even though we've had additional cumulative impact with other things that were approved that may have changed the situation from the original application.
Town of Smithfield doesn't operate the school system.
I know, I
Right.
understand that.
Right.
But we
with
should,
that being said, then do we need input from police, fire, and all those as well? And do these roads comply with the traffic recommendations for the fire trucks and all that?
So just to be clear, if this project is approved, then the developers would move into site plan approval, which would also be sent out for review for police, fire, EMS, et cetera. Again, this is just the amended proffer portion of the conceptual plan that they're working on, but this project
That's-
was sent out
that's to
for
come.
comments
Right,
at
correct.
this point in
Okay.
time.
But the schools would be to come as well?
No. Not
No,
now.
the schools are now. This is when we would solicit feedback from schools in Isle of Wight County Planning Department.
Okay.
And it was solicited and they just did not respond. Didn't it?
but we have the analysis. We've had previous analysis. One presented to us from a school official, I think his last name was Briggs or something like that. And then we had another one from a college, I forget the name, was
From UVA.
Cooper, something.
Weldon Cooper Center.
Weldon Cooper, yes. We have those. And
I don't know.
they acknowledge there's going to be impact. And I know the county is responsible for it, but the town should be working in cooperation with the county to make sure our schools get what they need.
I
And
believe when,
I don't see it. I
when
don't see
those
it here. I don't see any reference to what they're going to do as far as infrastructure and such in the schools. I don't see it.
they were accounting for the 150 units that are already approved for this particular development.
But if it's a new application,
It's not a new application, it's the same application. It's an amendment to the proffers to reduce the overall number of units and density. There's already an approval for 150 units.
yeah, I get that.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think, is that what you're driving at, Ms. Clary? That's already been
Okay. I get
That's already been taken in consideration in all the numbers that they've been throwing out for all the other developments that we've been looking at, because this was already approved and in the hopper, so to speak.
Okay.
And so
it's
it's already
irrelevant.
been accounted for, yet it will end up having a lesser
Less
impact
impact.
because it's 46 units less.
Right. But it's
So
irrelevant.
that's all we're talking about is the approval of the reduction?
That's what the new-
Tonight.
Tonight, you're looking at the written proffers, because they're important, but what they're tied to a revised site plan, which shows 46 less units. And then they have redesigned this in such a way as to do away with, how many special use permits? 4 or 6?
From 6 to down to 2.
Yeah.
6 down to 2.
They had 7 originally.
They had 7 originally, and and if you recall, a lot of them had to do with, as Ms. Smith said, setbacks and things like that. That's all gone away, and they basically redesigned this in such a way as they can comply with the by right set requirements, area requirements, setback requirements, all of that. So the only 2 special use permits they're asking for are the no
RV
RV.
parking.
No RV.
And then the third, what's the other one, Ms.
It's
Clary?
the attached
Attached.
The
units.
attached, yes. Even though they're not attached under our ordinance, they need a special use permit for the way it's been designed to permit them to do it like this, because they're condominiums.
They did achieve the required separation, the required front yard setback that they were originally asking for, the width of the corner lots, and the density and the stacked parking were all items that they complied with the zoning ordinance.
Thank you.
Of all the questions, I know I beat this point to death, but in item D, they're using occupancy permit and zoning permit. I know I beat that with a dead horse, but the town's in control of the zoning permits, not the occupancy permit, because they're saying that, you know, the amenities will be added on the 90th unit is sold. I still think it needs to be tied to zoning permits. I don't know how we resolve that. The Promontory changed in their proffers to zoning permits, I believe, if I remember from reading it, but, so I don't know. So to me, it still needs to be zoning permit, not occupancy permit, because the town's in control of the zoning permits, the county's in control of occupancy permits. Feels really bad when you say you sold the 91st home and we're not letting you move in because you haven't finished the Frisbee Park. But I don't know. That's something that we haven't really enforced, and that's how this gets away from us, and the developers aren't held accountable for what they need to do. But that's me for item D. The only other thing in item F was, is you talk about the association will maintain all of the stormwater management facilities, but I think it also needs to say all the common areas, pool, clubhouse, all the other things that go with that, that y'all will be responsible for. I don't see that listed in the proffer somewhere else unless I missed it. And then on item G, number 7, you're talking, what's that, not it? Sorry, number 6, where you're talking about the foundations need to have a parged or have veneer, no bare cinder block. I'd also like to include poured concrete. If you do a raised slab and you just take this thing off, you're gonna see a poured concrete slab. It may not be cinder block, but it's gonna be concrete. I still would like to see some sort of, I like to see that you're not gonna have concrete sides on that. Does that make a difference? Do you see what I'm saying? You say you're
Can I
gonna-
respond to some of these questions?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, if you'll notice what we changed when we came. If you've looked at the renderings that we also put in the materials in which we choose to use for our foundation, we're using stone, we're using brick. That's not going to be CMUs. So it will be aesthetic. That's a lot of what we put into this last
Well, that's the way it
submittal.
was written in another.
Dr. Pope, your concern about the exposed foundation is G, subsection 6.
Yes,
We do reference that foundations to be parged or have veneer, no bare cinder block.
or pour concrete sides. That was done in another neighborhood where they weren't supposed to have raised slabs, but they did it anyways, and they left bare concrete on the sides and fixed the front. So I just want to make sure it's not a poured concrete side either.
Okay.
And then on number H, commercial vehicles, we're running into this a little bit into Cypress Creek. I think commercial vehicles are saying, hey, I'm not going to drive my dump truck home and park it in front of my house. But what happens when you work for Stanley Steamer and such mechanical, and you have the van, and that's your travel vehicle? Cypress Creek is saying you can't park that van in your neighborhood because it's a commercial vehicle. I don't think that's really the way commercial vehicles are supposed to be approached. So the way this reads is it makes sure that no commercial vehicle for any use could be parked there. I think that's applicable for big commercial vehicles, but I don't think it's applicable for a travel vehicle that you give me for your business that may have your logo on the side of it. So I don't know how to rectify that, but there has been some instances where people have complained in our neighborhood that they're not allowed to park their work vehicle there because it's a company vehicle, not a dump truck or whatever. I mean, there's a difference there, but I don't know how you delineate that in words.
One way is to put tonnage.
Yeah.
Anything over and above
Okay.
1
But-
ton or 1.5 tons.
So I'd like to see
Would
you
be
change that only because it gives the people that are driving their work vehicle home to allow them to still use it.
And we can make that change. Some of the other things that were brought up here as well is the numbers, whether it be schools or whether it be traffic. Those were already approved. So those were in the studies, whatever city, we did a full TIA. So we reduced that, and that would reduce 460 trips a day by reducing the 46 units. As far as the schools, that was already baked in the cake for whenever they're doing the studies. Again, that was not requested of us. The study is done, and in our opinion, we weren't asked to do that. We were asked just recently to do a Phase 1A by the Alawite Museum, in which we did comply. That was only asked to us on April 1st. We should have that report completed by the end of this week. So I think what we've done is listen to you all and have resubmitted a plan that can be approved here with all of your concerns.
And my last concern, I don't like to tell you what to build, but rendering number 3 that you submitted with the shed roof, this doesn't look quite as in keeping with the other gabled roofs that you have.
Well, we can look into that as well. I believe it was a metal roof as well, so that way it would showcase some of the other
The front of it looks fine, I just
attributes.
feel like it needs a gable to match the other. When you look at your streetscape view where all of them are lined
We're
up.
trying to make them different, that was it. So
Yeah,
if there's something
I
that
get
you
it.
would
I just-
recommend, we'll take that to council.
Yeah, I agree.
We'll change in between.
Thank you, Dr. Pope. Other questions or concerns for the applicant?
We need to talk about AF, don't we, Ms. Clary? In the proffers?
Yes, 5.
That has to do with the, Ms. Clary raised this issue right before the meeting started. And we have concerns, staff has concerns about the, excuse me, not F, V, I mean, section A5. Has to do with a private water and sewer. And the problem with that is it would, if it's private, if it's a private sewer collection system, then it ends up being maintained by the HOA, Condominium Association forever, and that's fine, but the way it's written, it also looks as if there's an easement granted to the town of Smithfield for the purpose of ensuring the proper maintenance of all structures. And that seems, our concern is it seems to be conflicting. In other words, it looks as if it's going to be private, but then it seems to implicate a requirement that the town maintain it. And so we're going to need to clear that up, I think, Mr. Mullins.
The intent always has been that the sewer will be public, yes. I think the intent on how that is worded was that it would allow the city to get in there, but it is planned that the sewer will be public and that the water would be, that the sewer would be private and that the water would be public.
So the sewer is going to be, the sewer collection system is going to be a private system.
Correct, to a private station.
With the obligation of the condo association to maintain that.
That is correct.
In perpetuity.
In perpetuity.
We've done this for 20 years.
Okay, well, I think we need to, depending on what you take your action on, we're going to need to revise that. And you consent to a revision of that language so that we can make that very clear, right?
Of course.
Yeah, in our other subdivisions, we have Virginia Pump that does a monthly inspection. They also maintenance the pumps. Outside of that, the easement we're putting on that is so you all can collect fees.
I guess I'm confused. Why are none of these drained by gravity? Is this too low based on the sewer system that's existing? Why does this not drain to gravity?
The site itself is too low to drain gravity. The units themselves will all drain gravity to the private pump station. But there's not the elevation on the site in order to get gravity from the site to a town gravity system.
Well, then, engineering then, where is the sewer main then? Is it on Battery Park or are you going backwards through the subdivision behind us?
There's capacity in the subdivision behind us to tie our pump station into that gravity system.
Okay.
That's why staff would suggest that the proffer language give room just in case when engineering does come, if it's not feasible to have a private pump station, that at that point it could be decided where they would connect. Our utility department just doesn't have the engineering before them to review it at this phase of the project.
But to be clear, to Attorney Riddick's point, the association is going to be responsible for maintaining these pumps and such. And that's where the confusion in the language is, because it seems like you're assigning it to the town.
That's their intention, but then the second part of the proffer says that there's an easement in favor of the town of Smithfield granted for the purpose of ensuring the proper maintenance of all structures and the right of enforcement of all maintenance requirements. I think what Ms. Clary wants to do is to just make sure that it's very clear that they're going to own and be responsible for maintaining the sewer pump station as a private station. The town will have access as may be necessary, but no obligation to maintain the private pump station. Am I right there, Ms. Clary?
That is correct. We just don't want there to be a proffered condition, which, when it comes down to the actual engineering, prohibits them or interferes where they have to then do a proffer amendment.
Right.
Or we're just trying to be forward-thinking.
The town would only be enforcing maintenance, not performing maintenance, and not responsible for the cost of maintenance.
Correct.
Correct.
And we do a reserve study every 5 years, and we do collect for those.
You say this is something that you've done
Yes, sir.
before?
Right.
I don't
First
think-
one we did
do
was
we don't have
20
a
years ago.
private system. I don't think so.
And for tonight's purposes, within a recommendation for the requested changes, we will see these proffers again in the more formal application later with all of the engineering and all the other feedback.
This is it. You've already had your public hearing. You've had
Okay.
everything. This is, we had a public hearing on the original plan, and based on feedback from both the planning commission and consideration by the town council at their work session and every other source, they went back and said, we're redesigning all of this in order that we don't need all these special use
Got it.
permits. So,
Well, my concern is in light of what's happened in other developments, and they're going to make changes to the proffer statement, how do we ensure that those changes are being, I mean, I'm certain town staff will review it, but how do we know that these changes to the proffers are made and delegated so that nothing falls through the crack like happened in previous developments?
I mean, if you don't have to act on this tonight, you can, if you want to see the changes, you can get them next month.
Well, I mean, I know we've always kind of relied on developer does what the developer says, but
No, it needs, no, we're beyond that. It's all
Yeah, I
got to be
know.
in black and white.
you know, so for me, if there's changes that need to be made to the proffers and we're never going to see this again, then I think we need to see it again. Only to make sure that all these details are done because we've been burned once.
Well, we will be in front of town council, and that's usual for us.
Yeah, but I always question how much of this information we discussed tonight, how much in detail does it go to the town council? You know, I know it's our responsibility to make sure they have the details, but they're not here listening to every word that we say. A few people are.
Especially since we don't have Mr. Cutler here tonight.
Right, our liaison. Well, we've just been burned, and, all right, one time it's a mistake, twice it's on us, you know? And so I'm protecting ourselves, I'm protecting your homeowners down the road. You know, took 30 years to get a development done, and even 7 years to get a thing done, and things didn't happen. And the only way they're gonna happen is when they're written right here. And so if we were, and so that's the issue that I have, is I wanna make sure this is protected for the people, it's, you know? So,
I agree with you, Mr. Pope. Would you like to phrase that in terms of a motion to defer the proffer?
Is there no other mechanism? I think it's very clear the intent of what the edits that are desired to the proffers are, and we're able to review all that again if we need to refresh our memories. But with the town council being a mechanism, isn't there a way to ensure that those changes are made?
I hear you, but it's my responsibility to make sure that's done. And I see it as our responsibility to make sure that that's done. And I want to make sure the proffers are correct and no wordage needs to be changed before we pass it on.
So when we go to council, they wouldn't have anything to say about that?
Well,
They could
Sure,
certainly
they'll
say,
still
what
have
they
something
could
to say
certainly
about
say
it.
what they want to say about it. But when we've made changes and they haven't occurred in writing, then we've gotten burned on that. And so I want to make sure that the changes that are in writing are perfected before we pass it on to council so that there's no question. Whatever changes they seek to change is completely up to them.
And Doctor, we have done this for 40 years where we do go to council and we do go through both planning, zoning, and we'll have 30 days and we'll have it in front of you long before then. Or council will have that same information and would deny us at that point.
Thank you, Mr. Mullins. We appreciate that, but you haven't done that here
well,
before.
okay, Ms. Clary and I are talking about this because this is We've got two issues before you right now. The most pressing, the issue that you have jurisdiction over and need to take action on the special use permits, they had 7, right? They were all advertised. They've gotten rid of 5. They still need 2.
Correct.
Right? So they're asking you to make a recommendation on those, right? The proffers are ultimately to be revised by the town council, but you can make recommendations to any changes that you want to see. If you feel like if you want to see these next month, that's within your parameters. But you're not making the changes to the proffers. They have to ultimately be approved by the town council, but they put them in writing so that you can see that black and white goes with the pictures, for lack of a better way to describe that. But if you want to, I mean, you raised some good points, Dr. Pope, and if we have an issue on the issue concerning the pump station.
I think we understand it, Mr. Rick. I don't think anyone's saying to table the SUPs. I think our primary concern right now is what is actually written in the proffers, and we would like to get that clarified before we make a recommendation, hoping that they could address these concerns that we've discussed this evening.
I mean, if you want me to go on record, I'm fine with saying I don't have any problems with the SUPs that you presented tonight. I don't think there's any issues. You certainly has cleaned up some of this and addressed our concerns. I don't have a problem with what you're presenting. What I want to make sure of is whether I have any jurisdiction over this or not, I want this legal document to be right before it leaves our table. That's my personal opinion.
Yeah, I think we need to handle the 3 items separately, with the first being what you want to do about the proffers, and then have a recommendation on the 2 separate SUPs.
I'm not certain we can do that. It
You
can't be
can,
separate.
but there's not much point. Well, you could take action on 3, but there's not much point on sending it on to town council if you don't send it in one package. Right? I mean, they're not going to consider it without, in pieces. They shouldn't.
I just want to make, well, again, it's about communication. What's happening with these proffers? What do we think about these proffers in the sense of changes? Whether they're just my opinions. I don't know how you feel about them, but I just offered my opinion on the items. I just want to make sure that whatever changes are made, that they're appropriately communicated with the town council and they're not overlooked. That's all I care about. It doesn't matter to me if we do it tonight or we do see it as a separate document. I just want to make sure that whatever changes are made, that they are changed. It seems like to me in the past, doing this for years, this document just keeps getting passed even after we've discussed it. And it looks like the same proffer statement at the beginning, at the end as it was at the beginning, and even though there are changes, I don't always notice what has changed. I don't know. It scares me in light of what's happened in the past.
I agree, and I agree with all the issues that you raised about the zoning permit, the maintenance of the common areas, the pool, clubhouse, that sort of thing. The foundation issue, I think, is a critical one. And the commercial vehicles, I have lived next to rentals and literally had a dump truck in the driveway beside our house at 205 North Mason, and also had a commercial pickup truck with just a simple logo on the side, and I don't have a problem with that. What I have a problem with is the dump truck in, a narrow driveway. So I get that. And the water and sewer issue does need to be addressed and clarified a lot better than it is here. So I think all your concerns are valid. I don't know what the rest of you think.
I agree that we should have it all in writing so that when we pass it on with our recommendation to town council, that it is a complete package. Because yes, we have been burned. You are, you have always taken care of what you said you were going to take care of in the past, and we appreciate that. But for our purposes, I think we do need to have the total package to pass on.
Well, I appreciate that, and yes, our past history shouldn't, other than, you all know us, but outside of that, we have proven to you all that we have worked in accordance with your all's thoughts, and we will not get approval for pump stations or any of the design work unless those things have already been answered. This is not even into the design side of that yet. So we can, Doctor, we can overcome yours by just the design on this. Tonight, it's just the 10,000-foot view, and then we get down into the minutia about that. And I think after 20 months, we've really shown you that we have worked from 150 units down to 104. We've removed the SUPs, as you asked, on this. And when we put 90 units in there, it's to our advantage, actually, to have the clubhouse and everything done at an earlier date. It makes sales better. And that's usually how, I've never done it usually past 50%, but if you have another way that you would like for us to address that, that's fine. The items that you're bringing out today have not been answered because they weren't asked. Commercial vehicles, we didn't ask about those. We didn't know. Schools, no, sir. We just asked that you would give a recommendation to town council, and if there's problems within that and your recommendation is to ask us to clean up some of the proffers, you will have an opportunity to look at that before town council, and I'm sure you all converse with town council to make sure that that is. It's obviously of the record here.
My experience has been as I have not and do not converse with town council. They don't
No,
ask
we don't.
for our
They don't
opinion.
ask.
So, I mean, they get our opinion from here,
Okay.
but there's nothing done outside of this meeting.
Right?
Tammy, would there be any possibility as staff to make some kind of a contingency on the proffers being worked out? If some type of a conditional approval was able to be had on this, is there any type of contingency to be able to have the proffers worked out before council?
Could that be a condition?
The timing on this, it's still got to be advertised, correct?
Ads are due tomorrow.
The ads are due tomorrow. But they'll have a meeting before the, yes, they will.
Council will meet on the 6th, and if it was recommended, then it
It's
would be
gotta be
advertised
set.
for May 6th.
How can you meet the new,
Yes, sir.
The approval would be a conditional to these items that you speak of.
And obviously, if they're not made, council can deny the application when they see it.
Are we waiting on,
well,
are we waiting on something?
waiting on you.
Okay.
On all of you.
All right, it looked like you were calculating over there. I was trying to figure out.
Before you, let's just make sure everybody's on the same page here. It seems to me you, Dr. Polk, you raised an issue about in item D, that the improvements should be completed before the issuance of the 90th zoning permit. Was that?
Correct.
Is that correct? And then with respect to the foundations,
I would
that would
just-
be
I would say
item
poured concrete.
G6. Foundations to be parsed or have veneer, no bare cinder block or
Poured concrete.
poured concrete.
Because when they form it up and they pull the form down, you're left with a concrete face.
Do you understand that, Mr.?
Yes.
They're not going to do it anyways, but I just want to make sure it's not a poured concrete, because they may say it's cinder block, but in the other neighborhood, it was poured concrete, and they would say that's not the same as cinder block.
Right. Doc, I will let you know that it is a raised slab for the house.
Yeah.
And so when we give the pads to the builder, they dig a regular footer, and then they come in and do the block work on the outside. So CMUs or poured concrete would not be seen.
Okay.
Step it in 4 inches and do a brick or a stone overlay on.
Well, my son's house was done as a monolithic pour.
So
That wasn't a raised slab.
commercial vehicles, you suggested this, Mr.
Tonnage.
Morris. No commercial vehicles exceeding,
1.5
I
tons?
have no idea on that.
We do it in here.
1.5 tons probably.
what'd you say, Tammy?
Well,
1.5 tons
I'm
is
looking, we
350.
need to address it in our, in our ordinance, I believe.
What would be a dually truck? What would?
That would be a one-ton truck.
An F-350 and below
Okay.
fall within that, so it'd be a sign on the side of the door or something.
And that's a one-ton,
That,
Yeah.
the 350 would be up
350 is
to
a
100,
one-ton.
I mean, 1.5
1.5.
on a, what do you ask, a dually 350.
I don't understand how that works. I'm sure that vehicle, a dually, is heavier than 2,000
That's not
pounds.
how, it doesn't have anything to do with its weight, it's
No,
it's
that's
the
a sporting-
rating for the vehicle,
Pulling power.
yeah.
What kind of load it'll take?
I think that's too vague.
That's not very, that's not like a big commercial vehicle, that's like a large pickup truck.
I will say in our zoning ordinance, we address buses, school buses, commercial vehicles, including tractors, trailers, and step vans rated over 1 ton as classified by the DMV.
Okay, so it's a one-ton.
We'll take it at 1.
It's a one-ton limit then.
And Mr. Riddick also has some questions about, in item F, where it mentioned stormwater maintenance, also wanted to add common areas, pool, clubhouse, that sort of thing.
If I can speak to that as well. Actually, our condos, we take care of all the land everywhere. We also take care of the exterior of the houses. We pressure wash them. We take care of the roofs, everything down. It's paint.
F does mention pressure, maintenance of all units in common area buildings, so the
Okay.
clubhouse would automatically fall in that.
Fall into that, okay.
That's
Thank
with
you.
every house.
I'm still having problems with the applicant's statement that we'll get to see again these changes to the proffers before it goes to town council. I don't know how that works.
I'm not sure is that
We
what you
submit
said?
them to Tammy. We have a cutoff date that we have to do that with.
Yes, but aren't we required to give an official finding to the town council through these applications?
Well, what they want us to do this evening, if I'm correct, gentlemen, they want us to recommend approval of the proffers with our concerns about D, F, G, 6, H, and
Which we don't see tonight.
the private sewer collection issue.
What we have is their oral statements.
Right.
We don't have them in writing.
Which staff would then verify and present to council.
You take that responsibility.
For the words that were spoken tonight in regards to those items, yes.
So is that what we're gonna do? We're gonna assign our responsibility to the community development department? That's what we're gonna do tonight? That's
We
what we're
do
being
that
asked to do?
often when we approve
We
things
do.
with contingencies, like,
Yes.
assuming they have to pay the sign fee or whatever forms they still need to get. We have done that other times this evening. It's about your level of
These,
comfort with,
once
Proffers.
submitted, we can also provide a copy of the updated proffer statement to the Planning Commission, where you can provide any additional comments that we would also present at town council as well.
And ask for more than that?
Ms. Claire is saying she'll send the amended proffer statement that will go to town council to us prior to the meeting. So if we have issues, we can send an email to council or come and appear to speak on the proffer situation.
And we have done that before.
Yeah.
We can have them to you by Friday.
And I think that's reasonable. It's a reasonable compromise.
I agree.
I do too.
Okay. Do we have a motion to that effect?
Well, I'll start off saying, but I'm very pleased at the reduction in special use permits and going from 130 units to 104 units. It certainly seems like it has cleaned up things and gotten things a little bit more clarified and clean. So I'm going to say I'm in favor of the 2 special use permits as they've been presented and making a recommendation to town council that this is a more acceptable project than what was previously presented.
I agree, so I don't mean to minimize the work that you've done to make this a better, more quality development.
Not
We are
the first
appreciative
time.
of that,
We're here to
very,
do it, as
very
you said.
much. So if you want to approve this as a package, we can do that with the contingencies that we discussed, or we can go do them three separately. What's your pleasure?
I'm personally fine doing it as a package
Okay.
well, assuming that I guess I need to make a motion. I'll make a motion that we make a recommendation to town council with the approval of the two special use permits and the contingencies and the proffer statements.
As discussed
As
and
discussed.
outlined by the planning commission in these proceedings.
That's an excellent motion, Dr. Pope. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Ms. Smith. Ms. Clary, call for the question, please.
Dr. Pope,
Yes.
Mr. Davidson,
Yes.
Mr. Bryan,
No.
Vice Chair Smith,
Yes,
and Chairwoman Hillegas.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
thanks.
Item number 13 is a discussion item about the promontory. Kent Henry is the applicant. Ms. Clary, do we have a staff report on that?
Yes, thank you. The applicant is seeking a conditional rezoning to a planned mixed-use development. This is to facilitate the construction of 5 commercial lots, a future commercial area, 131 single-family detached units, and 108 single-family attached units, a maximum of 239 units in total. This will be 26.7 acres of open space as well. It will be phased, starting with the commercial sites. The road beside Tractor Supply will be extended with a network of public roads connecting Cypress Run Drive and Turner Drive. In order to facilitate the project, the applicants have applied for the following: a conditional official zoning map amendment, which is the rezoning. The uses the applicant is proposing: attached and detached units, fast food restaurant, car wash, restaurant, drive-in bank, are permissible in the planned mixed-use development district. These uses are also in line with the future land use map, as the current designations are residential mixed use and corridor mixed use, which provide primary residential uses and mixed commercial multifamily residential uses. Next is a special use permit. This would be for drive-through facilities. The applicant is requesting the flexibility to utilize drive-through facilities on all 5 commercial parcels, with the current plan of a drive-in bank and fast food restaurant with a drive-through window. The second special use permit is for a waiver of yard requirements for reduced setbacks. This would be for the townhouse, villa, and single-family dwelling. The required setbacks are a front and rear 35-foot and a side 15. The applicants are requesting for the townhouse and villa an 18-foot front yard setback, a 10-foot side yard setback, and a rear 20-foot setback. For the single-family dwellings, they are requesting a front setback of 20 feet instead of that 18. The third is for a waiver of maximum density. This SUP is only for the attached units, which do exceed the 8 units per net developable acre. They are at 10.36 units per net developable acre. The detached single-family dwellings are under the maximum density at 3.03 units per acre, with an overall density of 4.42 units per net developable acre. Finally, the applicants will need a planning commission waiver for the 50-foot buffer requirement. This has been reduced to a 30-foot buffer with landscape screening. The planning commission, on a case-by-case basis, does have the ability to grant this waiver in the reduction. This 30-foot buffer would only be applicable to 13 villa units and 5 single-family dwellings towards the front of the property. The 50-foot buffer would be maximized towards the end of the parcel. The amenities will include the items depicted on L11 through 15, which is signage, multi-purpose lawns, grill area, waterfront deck, fishing outposts, native planting, seating nook, tot lot, seating with open views to the lake, bike racks, pedestrian paths, picnic tables, fire feature with seating, woods, bench, connection to the trail, pergola with tables and benches, and Rondeck chairs and sand beach. The applicants will have a property owners association that will be responsible for the maintenance and upkeep of the open space, common areas, and other amenities noted in the conceptual plan, their stormwater management infrastructure, landscaped buffered areas as well. They are proffering road improvements. along with a conditional payment towards the construction of the roundabout at Turner Drive. They are also proffering a conditional cash proffer to Isle of Wight County Schools if they are over enrollment capacity at Smithfield Middle School at the time of CO issuance. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Clary. Ladies and gentlemen, this is just a discussion item this evening. What's your pleasure?
The applicant is here.
Oh, the applicant is here. Would you come up and state your name and address for the record, please, sir?
Ken Henry, Greenwood Homes, 3122 West Marshall Street. And one second.
Just let me know when you're ready.
All right, next slide, please. That's what I was asking. So we have been working with staff over roughly the last 3 years as we've been iterating through our plan on this parcel. We came to you all in February as a discussion item to get feedback. We really valued the feedback we received at that meeting and are working revisions to implement some of your concerns into our plan. And so some of the high-level changes that we have made, we lowered our overall density by 32 units. We're at 4.4 units an acre across the parcel now combined. We have increased the open space to 26.7 acres, up from 23. We have increased the buffers on the property lines, and I'll talk through that again here in a second in more detail. We have increased the residential setbacks. We have increased the commercial setbacks to code, so we are no longer seeking those as part of the special use permit. We have added language in regarding the commercial elevations because there was feedback on the renderings we had showed previously, so we noted that those would come back in front of Planning Commission once potential tenants were in place. We have added in a zoning permit restriction of 60 a year to correspond with our phasing, and then we have also spelled out the amenities, concept plan them, and proffered them per those concept plans in our pattern book. Last slide, please. So if you go ahead and look, some of the changes, we have the teal that calls out the commercial parcels. Those have remained the same, just the setbacks have changed. We went ahead and shifted away from townhouses to more villas. Our villa is a two-story product with main level living, and we feel like that is a better fit. That has allowed us to kind of shift down some of that density as well and lower that attached unit density down from 14 units an acre when we were here in February to 10.36 units an acre. And then we still have the single family kind of as we wrap around the backside of the project. Next slide. Here are our special use permits that Ms. Clary spelled out that we are requesting. The first one is the drive-through facilities on the commercial. The second is the special use permit pertaining to the reduced setbacks on the residential. And then the third is the waiver of maximum density associated with the attached units, which are over that 8 units per net developable acre. Next slide. The Planning Commission waiver request for the buffer on our property line. Originally, when we were here in February, we had a 10-foot buffer, and we noted that we were working to increase this from a 10-foot landscape buffer to something that was, better for our residents and our neighbors as well. So we focused on the rear of the site where we are closer to our neighbors. They're roughly 300 yards or 300 feet from the property line on the exhibit on the left. And so we put in some dimensions showing that the buffer there is 119 feet. And then the closest house to that property line would be 154 feet. So we increase the buffer beyond that 50 feet as we get closer to our neighbors. And then as we're closer to the entrance, we shift to that 30-foot buffer with landscape screening. And then there's a fence that runs the entirety of the buffer as well to help with the physical barrier separation from our project to our neighbor's property. And then we've included a measurement on the right that shows the distance from property line to the rear of the house at 61 feet. Next slide, please. And so this is the updated zoning concept. You'll note that there's that shift from townhouses to more villas, and we also pulled the houses away from the water line. That was a comment we had received previously, actually from Isle of Wight, so we wanted to make sure we addressed that and pull those homes away kind of from that borrow pit. Next. And this is the reflection of the changes we made on the zoning concept west. Next slide. Phasing plan remains the same, commercial to be developed first, and then 5 residential phases as we build through the site. Again, capped at 60 zoning permits per year. Next. And then the amenity overview, which is now a part of our proffers and called out. You'll notice 5 different parks here, and we'll flip through these slides in a second. We also redid the trail system to be more internal to the site. Originally, it had looped around up by North Creekside Park, which is item 3 on the map. And we wanted to pull that from our neighbors, keep it more internal to make sure no one was wandering on that side of the property. So next slide. This is the Promontory Park. Again, this is proffered. This will be kind of our fishing pier and walking trail and some green space out onto the promontory. Next. Dragonfly Park, which is the main entrance park, green space, seating area, tot lot for kids. Next. This is the North Creekside Park. The trail kind of ties in on the planned south side of Public Road C. So this has connectivity to the other parks. And this is green space, some benches, and a fire pit. Next slide. This is the terminus on the other side of that trail system. Bike racks, some informal seating, kind of a pocket park. Next slide. And then this is more of the beach area of the promontory where we're taking advantage of that sand pit. We've got a pergola, picnic tables, green space, beach. And next slide. Traffic plan. So the Bench Church Master TIA had contemplated 262 units on this parcel. We are now at 239. So we have less trips and impacts with the reduction in units, and that's reflected in the traffic memo that we submitted. We still are proffering the associated traffic improvements from that master TIA, and we're maintaining 4 points of access. So presumably handling the traffic a little better now with those reduction in units as well. Next. Similar story here. The original plan had student generation at 89 students. Our current plan is down to 73 students. We have included that proffered zoning permit restriction at 60 a year to help with schools and the forecasting of when these students will be delivered. Our fiscal impact breaks out the students' yields by school. I will note that we have not received comments back yet from Isle of Wight County Schools on the new unit count. So we're only able to proffer for impacts that are specifically attributable to the development. In a letter dated December 13th, 2024, schools had noted that there would be a capacity issue at Smithfield Middle School once our community was built out. We have addressed that in our proffer, and that is staying in our proffer statement. But we will need to work with schools just to verify the impacts that are included in our fiscal impact analysis and shown here. Next slide. Fiscal impacts have been updated a little bit. Expected cash flow of $263,000 a year once stabilized for the town, with the surplus revenue of $1.8 million over the 10 years. Isle of Wight's cash flow is $1.1 million once stabilized, and surplus revenue of $8.3 million over those 10 years. Next slide. So I touched on this earlier. The commercial architecture renderings were pulled from the pattern book with the feedback we received last time on being too modern. They're in the ECO anyway. They need to come to Planning Commission. We've proffered that to make sure that's not missed so that you all will have a look at the commercial elevations with the prospective tenants as they come online. We have proffered pattern book to set our architectural and landscape requirements throughout the community. There will be an ARB, which is standard in all of our declaration and CCNRs for the HOA, that will be enforcing these architectural controls in the pattern book, which is consistent with how we operate in all of our communities. Next. And then photos, and I think we're done. So if we want to flip back to the first slide with that master plan layout, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Great, thank you, Mr. Henry. Questions or concerns for the applicant?
So the purple buildings on your diagram, those were a little more cluttered than the original. Have you, you know, I think I've got two sets of drawings here trying to compare, but have they been pulled apart to some
They
degree?
have. So we've, extended that setback there and then kind of opened up that middle area where those 40 townhouses are. So yes, that's accurate.
So then, on the second special use permit, the side yard setback is 10 foot, but that's 10 foot per building, so it'd be 20 foot between the buildings. Is
That's
that
correct. And also, there is a 1 foot overhang or side overhang on all of our buildings. So really, it's 20 feet from side overhang to side overhang, so it'd be 22 feet between the two buildings from a massing perspective.
Ms. Clary, have we been enforcing the overhangs, or has it just been foundation setbacks? I thought it was just foundation setbacks.
Foundations.
Okay. But yes, that's correct. So
And then
20
on
feet in
on the
between.
orange villas, those were some townhouses, and you reduced those in order to put the villas through there.
Yes,
Is that
sir.
correct? And there was a mention last time, too, about a dock or no dock,
no docks.
and that's definite. I mean, it's not in your proffer statement to say no dock or access to the creek, but since you don't do it, is it something you can come back later or proffer that it has to say no dock? If there's no dock in the proffer statement, there's nothing mentioned in the proffer statement, then they could reasonably come back in the future and say, can we put a dock in? If they put in their proffer statement, we don't wish to put a dock in ever, then that needs to be in the proffer statement. Is that correct?
It would.
Happy to do that. Again, traditionally, we've kind of addressed some of those items through our declaration and CCNRs at the HOA level. Noting that's an item of concern for the Planning Commission, happy to add that into the proffers themselves.
The buffer seemed reasonable. Is it reasonable? I'm asking questions also to making sure everybody agrees, but
Yeah, again, our focus, we really have commercial tenants as our neighbors, and then we have about 5 houses to the plan north, and then vacant land plan south that is also part of the borrow pit. Again, our focus was on the back half of the property towards Cypress Creek, providing better buffers for our neighbors whose houses are back there, and kind of looking from across the creek as well. And then the 30-foot landscape buffer just for those highlighted orange villas, plan north, and then 3 singles. And really, that's just because the natural contour of the lake and that pitch point you'll see there, and staying away from the borrow pit itself, where there's been, over the last 20 years, mining operations and some uncontrolled fill in that area. So keeping houses away from that.
I know we're way away from this, but I just want to make sure that buffer area is heavily landscaped. And that I saw a bunch of trees on some of your other drawings and stuff of that nature, but, really, I think due respect to the neighbors is, I don't know if they want to look at a bunch of backable houses, but as many trees and staggered trees and all as we can get in there, that would, I think, be appreciated.
100%. And, I actually had a note, just looking at the pattern book this morning, that we should include kind of the specs on that landscape buffer and what we intend to do. So that can come back before you all as well.
A question.
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
The commercial portion of this, the 5 lots for the commercial aspects of this application, it seemed like I recall that this is an interest corridor overlay, and there's a 40-foot minimum setback from the right-of-way, from the road. You asked for a waiver of that previously, correct?
Previously, yes.
What's the condition now?
There are none. We'll comply with those commercial setbacks in the ECO.
The 40 feet?
Yes, sir.
You're going to comply with that?
Yes, sir.
Is it shown in the drawing?
There is in your development plan, one of those sheets has a commercial typical lot layout that shows the setbacks. I do not have a picture of it on the slide itself.
It's in the printed packet that was
In the
on-
printed package?
It's on the digital, and the general development plan has also been printed out for you.
Probably sheet C3, would be
Yeah,
my guess.
C3.
C6. is the-
C6?
C6 at the bottom.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. You see it?
Yes. But is the parking overlapping into the 40-foot buffer? That's what it looks like.
That would come at site plan review. Once we have an approved project where they engineer a site plan, we would ensure conformance with the entrance corridor overlay guidelines.
But I am looking at overlap here on these drawings.
We don't know where the proposed parking will be at this point in time. The applicant at this point in time is just looking for approval of the rezoning so that they can move forward with site design and site engineering.
So we're still at the conceptual phase.
That's correct. And we mentioned last time that we have some interested parties on these commercial parcels, but we have kind of tabled all talks until there is the ability within the zoning for commercial. And certainly, depending on the tenant that ends up being there, those layouts might shift a little bit. And that's what Ms. Clary is saying, where we will come back, once we get to that level.
One other comment. Number 9, it's on page 95. I guess this is your proffers. You can't see it, but I'm concerned about the payout for the roundabout. On my screen, it's page 95, number 9. The reading is you're going to pay out $1 million, your roundabout payment, payable and condition as follows. And my concern is the conditions. $400,000 shall be payable from the owners of the project's commercial parcels. And then $600,000, the majority of this payment is to be paid, it seems like piecemeal over time, based on the housing as they are built out.
That's correct.
How does that work with the other parties with this roundabout construction? How does that fit in with their plans to
Mr.
fund
Bryan,
this?
that, just so you know, I don't know if you remember, several months ago, that the county and the town reached an agreement about, do you remember it was in the news about the funding for the roundabout, and as well as all the traffic improvements in that corridor? There was an agreement that was reached by the town and the county about that, and the town objected to having to pay certain amounts, and the agreement was that these proffers would be either paid by the developer or the cost would be picked up by the county, but not absorbed by the town. And this mechanism was agreed to by the town and the county. So they're restating what essentially the town council and the board of supervisors came to an agreement about, along with the stakeholders, of which they're one, and then, who else is involved? Well, mostly the town, there's undeveloped land on the other side of the Route 10, the Philip Edwards property.
Sweet.
All of that was taken into consideration in arriving at this agreement.
Right,
And so-
Sweetgrass, then you had the
Yeah,
Wawa,
that's
and those are
right.
commercial.
But this agreement reflects what the agreement was that was reached by the town and the county with respect to potential contributions. If this doesn't get approved, they owe nothing. Neither from the county, the commercial or the residential. This is a contingency that if it's approved, then this is the contribution they're gonna make for those road improvements.
So in other words, we can't do anything about it.
Well, it's
It's out of
not
your
very,
league.
I mean, you can offer your opinion, but I don't know that it's kind of,
Mute point.
that's right, it's a moot point. The ship has sailed.
Fair enough.
On that issue, I mean, that's called, the county and the town trying to work together about road improvements.
Okay.
I think your concern is the town is financing it and going to get paid back over the long term.
Over the long term, I think it should be paid up
That's
front.
the-
Yeah, that's my opinion. It should be up front.
Thank you, Mr. Frank.
I
Anyone
want to be clear on the setbacks on special use permits. So what we have in this packet is what you are proffering, correct? Or what you're requesting, is that for the townhouses, the front 18 feet and side would be 10 and the rear 20, as opposed to what's required. These
That's
are-
correct.
these are correct.
What do you think is this build-out from start to finish, including the residential? How many years are you looking at?
From start of development or start of construction?
What's the difference?
Probably about 9 months.
Start of construction to completion, including the residential.
Okay. I'd
Charles, you'll
say,
see the list of phases on page 58.
right, I do have the phases listed out for reference, and the timing in there is what I sat down with our fiscal impact analysis contractor as well as our sales team and accurately reflected, and I think it's 6 years for full build-out. Certainly, a lot of that is market dependent with demand.
6 years.
It's 8, actually, I think, completed phase.
8?
Last one is 2034,
Does that start, yeah, that,
phase 6.
okay.
And how does this align with Sweetgrass? I know that's a different development, but looking at the schedules, do you know the schedule, how they align? I mean, there's a lot of construction going on along Ben's Church. And how long is that going to go on? That's my concern.
I do not know the phasing for the Sweetgrass project located in Isleworth County.
Right.
I know it's county,
That's county.
but still, there are some dates. They have, the county has dates, and this application here have dates. Are they aligned? How close aligned are they? That's what I'm asking.
We'll make them use Road G so they don't impact Route 10.
I will say Sweetgrass has already been approved, so they are already steps ahead.
You know, who knows? It took Cypress Creek 30 years to get finished.
Right.
You know,
That wasn't their original plan either, was it?
No, I'm sure it wasn't.
yeah, I'm just concerned about how quickly can Ben's Church be completed, so all this construction doesn't interfere with all the traffic. And I hope it's not gonna be years. As, you know, your timeline with finishing the residential portion, I hope that portion is completed in a timely manner.
I hope so too, and I guess per our proffer, the most accelerated we could be is 60 zoning permits a year at this point.
Again, just as a reminder, the county is moving forward with the road improvements in this area that will account for these proposed developments.
You say the county is moving forward?
Correct, the roundabout and the necessary road improvements that
On
were
Ben's
that
Church.
required. Yes, the Isle of Wight County has already received funding from VDOT and is moving forward with that project to account for the increase in traffic.
So Ben's Church would be done on its own, separately from what the developer is doing.
That is correct. That was the roundabout and the 2 left turn lanes off of Ben's Church onto Turner.
Okay.
Okay, other discussion? Anything else you want to add, Mr. Renner?
No, thank you for the time.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, item number 14 is a discussion about density. Ms. Clary, do you have something to get us
Yes,
started there?
thank you. The planning commissioners did request that staff review density. We have provided an Excel spreadsheet that highlights the current densities of the town and neighboring localities for just review and discussion. If I can provide some highlights of my review of that information. For zoning districts that did quantify a low density, it ranged anywhere from 1.5 to 5.8 units. There's a low medium category that had 2 localities at 2.9 and 1 at 8.7. The medium density category ranged anywhere from 4.3 to 10.9. Medium high was anywhere from 7 units to over 21 units. And then localities that categorized high density, that went anywhere from the smallest of 2.5 all the way up to the highest of 40.
Thank you. I think this discussion arose because council's had some issues with density and some special requests for variances. And I think a few citizens commented at the last council meeting about the density of various areas of town in the historic district and outside the historic district. And there are many areas that exceed what we have on the books. So we wanted to have this discussion item tonight to clarify some of your thoughts around the issue and see if there's anything you'd like to move forward to town council at all.
My thought on it, as far as the downtown neighborhood residential, is that what was put into our zoning ordinance at 5 units per net developable acre is a bit antiquated. Well, I don't think it took into account what's already there, what has been there for years. When were these, the zoning ordinances added or approved, which was in the 90s, correct? where the majority of everything was already built out. And we know that from our experience, when we look at, for instance, the entrance corridor overlay district, when we looked at all of that, we got information pulled from other areas and worked it and made it our own. I think that's probably what was done with the downtown neighborhood residential, perhaps with all of the different areas of town. And so that's what I'd really like to see. Let's look at what we've really got, and let's look what is in our zoning ordinance so that we can get things updated. That's my thought.
Thank you, Ms. Smith. Other comments?
I'm not sure where to begin, because I've often said that I think the things are just randomly made up in the past, and I don't think that's gone over very well with the new town council. But I don't know. I mean, I've said it before. I said it a couple of years ago, we needed to look at this because I didn't think this was accurate then. But now we're holding it down to the letter of the law, or the letter of the written ordinance. And so I think it all needs to be relooked at again, because I think it's fair to the developers to give them what's in writing that's reasonable and seems to make sense. We kept this ordinarily restrictive in order to give us say in this matter, and now it's coming back to haunt several developers. Inappropriately haunt them, in my opinion, but it's just my opinion. But I don't know. I mean, I think we need to, I wasn't prepared tonight to sit down and really just look at the numbers of every single individual ordinance like I have in the past, especially for the downtown neighborhood residential part of it. But as I've told you before, 4,000 square feet on the minimum lot size comes out to a density of approximately 10.7 or 10.8 houses per acre. And so we're going to allow a minimum lot size of 4,000. How do we come up with 5 versus 10? This doesn't make any sense to me, you know. But I haven't sat down to look at suburban residential and you know, and all the different versions of that to see how does that really play out. But when you put it to this, we seem inappropriately low compared to our localities. Now, is that what we really want? Then if that's what we really want, then that's the way it is, and that's the way we need to stick with it. But I just think it seems awfully low. Not that I'm increasing for increased density, but there are pockets of where this does not make sense in the ordinances.
Right. I agree. I agree.
So going through the square footage, the minimum lot areas, for the neighborhood residential, it's 2 units per acre, but if you calculate the lot area required, it actually turns out to be 2.9 units per acre. Suburban residential is 3 units, but with the lot area of 12,000 square feet, you end up with 3.6. The cluster is at 4.5 units an acre, but with the lot area calculations, it's 5.4. DNR is 5 units, but if you calculate the lot area, it comes out to 7.3, and then duplexes at 8.7. Attached residential is 8 units. If you utilize the lot area for a townhouse, you're actually at 18.2 units, and for a duplex, 8.7. MFR is 12 units, and with the attached at 2,400 square feet, it's 18.2.
My interpretation of that is one of those numbers are wrong.
Right. Right.
We have to decide which
And
one.
you're exactly right, but you have to go back and look back in time and when and why this was done. We had consultants who said, and this is way out of favor right now, but the whole reason, and you've talked about it many times, Dr. Poe, we had it more restrictive, but we had the ability to, you, the planning commission, the council, had the ability to grant with conditions greater density. And you could, and that's not in favor anymore. So if special use permits are at the door, then you're gonna have to say, okay, this is what we're gonna live with, and this is what the number needs to be. But that's how it got there, because that's the way it was designed to be. Well, you know, those people who sat in these chairs, that was 20 years ago, 30 years ago. And we had consultants, and the world was different then. Everything is getting smaller. What I mean by that is lot densities and, in order to make things affordable, you know, the lots got smaller, the houses got smaller, and we haven't kept up. And if town council doesn't want to change it, that's fine, but there's a reason. You're right, the math doesn't add up, but I'm confident there was lots of discussion about that way back when.
So the simpler thing to do, if we're going to fix this, is to just divide an acre up by the number of lots and make the lot sizes comparable. If the density is calling for 3 units per acre, then evenly divide the acre up into 3 lots. Is that what we're attempting to do?
Well, the problem with that, though, is you have to take into consideration infrastructure, roadways, all that sort of thing. That's a net, it's really a net development. It's basically net development acres, because you have to take out for roads and sidewalks and easements and things like that.
And the danger I see in making it broader is that then we open up ourselves and we essentially say, do what you want, because we've made it so broad. To me, the control, if you will, comes with having things more restrictive and then being able to grant special use exceptions or for greater density as the development or the situation calls for. I think part of it is being reasonable. A big part of it is being reasonable in what we do.
Well, I think the term reasonable to me means is we keep it restrictive and we be reasonable, not inflexible.
Correct.
I agree. I agree.
I think that inflexibility is going to be a big downfall.
Yes.
I think most of us are in agreement on that. Current council is not. Clearly, they've demonstrated that to us time and again. And I mean, that was part of the purpose of the joint meeting. I thought we had a better understanding than what there was clearly based on their subsequent actions, so.
Right.
So we're going to take this on as a project and say, let's look at these individually, like Tammy has with all this stuff, and say,
Yeah, can we get a table with that analysis that you did? And maybe put that on the agenda again to discuss further next time? Is that?
yeah, but I think, it'd be very reasonable to have Mr. Cutler or Mr. Yocco here for these types of discussions, because all of
Absolutely.
these opinions, even Mr. Cutler may have a stronger opinion than we do, but he needs to be in on these discussions.
I agree.
Right, right. And I think that part of, if you've been on town council or on planning commission for a long time, you've seen more iterations come through, more reason for special use permits coming through, and the ability to be more flexible, where with folks who have not had that experience, you come with more inflexibility. And they're listening to what other people, what the constituents have to say, is why are you being so bending over backwards for developers when that's not necessarily what we're doing? Well, it isn't what we're doing. What we're doing is we're being reasonable. I see it as being reasonable.
Agree. Okay, so we'll take a further look. Anything else on this discussion item?
Well, make a acknowledgement. There's a percentage in the ordinances. There is percentage of development that's set aside for infrastructure and roads. And once you deduct that, again, we're just looking at developable acreage. And that's very difficult to do. I think you have to do a lot of mathematical acrobatics to come up with a figure because we're not building on grids. We're not dealing with rectangular areas because of the geography and topography of the areas, the grounds, the land, the topography, and I just don't see how you can do that.
I don't think
There's no
anyone's
grid.
suggesting that.
Yeah, there's no grid.
I don't think anyone's suggesting that.
There's no grid, but when you look at your net developable acreage, you're just looking at saying this average comes out to 2.8. Well, this lot, if it's on a curve, may actually need to be 20,000 square feet, but these lots that are on a straightaway of a road may be able to be 10,000 square feet. Well, if we did 3 houses per acre, that would be whatever that calculation was, 15,000 square feet or whatever it was. But you'd have to say the minimum lot size would be 15. But there may be some lots that have to be bigger in order to accommodate imperfections in the ground and the roadway and things of that nature.
Cul-de-sacs and,
Yeah, but you're not going to say every lot has to be 15,000 square feet, period. It wouldn't be that.
Right.
Right. It's difficult to make that work.
But it wouldn't make sense to say we want every lot size to be a maximum of 6,000 square feet, but we only want the density to be 2 per acre. That doesn't even make any sense to say, why do you go make it 6,000 square feet, but you're going to only allow 2 houses per acre? That just seems silly. The developer I'm going to imagine whatever you call it, landscape person or whoever the person is doing all the math on is going to say, wait a second, we can put 20 homes in here. This doesn't make sense. I don't know. It just doesn't make sense to me either. But it's done on an average. And so we're going to say, what you would say is the minimum lot size is going to be approximately whatever number of units per acre you think is appropriate for that level of development.
And I think the other thing that we have to take into consideration is the use. They're not all going to be the big houses that we've had in the past. People are looking to downsize. The younger people aren't looking to do a lot of yard work and painting their shutters and that type of thing. And we're looking for more affordability.
I also think we need to look at multi-level attached residential density, because right now we just assume everybody's going horizontal, but that's not true. When we saw the Grange, it went up. And so we really need to talk about vertical density as much as we need to talk about horizontal density. True. Because people, I can go in there and build a 20-story building and keep all the parameters on a 1 acre lot.
Right, the footprint. Right.
Yeah, so we really need to look at vertical density as much as horizontal density.
Okay, so we'll bring this back next time. Great, thank you. Next item is.
I have one request. I have one request. Director Clary, when we were discussing the downtown neighborhood residential density, I don't think it was at the committee meeting, but it was at a meeting this came up, that your findings was that the density in the downtown neighborhood residential area was multiple. There was no overview of the density for the whole district. There were multiple densities found in that area. Could you provide that data, a printout, maybe to break down the map to show where the densities vary?
Sure.
I'd appreciate that.
I just want to clarify that exercise was done because the applicant at that time had such a small parcel. It's not fair to look at the density overall because you're just looking at sections of
Right.
it, which is why
Right.
it was sectioned off. But yes, sir.
Yeah, but to see the density, the overall district, I think that would be interesting.
Well, I think overall, and then break it down into the pockets,
Yes.
Yeah, because Washington Street and James Street and Grace Street, it all varies.
The difficulty that we had is the environmentally sensitive lands that are excluded from the net developable acreage. You can't take the entire parcel size, and we're not licensed surveyors. We wouldn't know where that line is, so it is a really rough approximation.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
That's a good point.
Okay, next item, ladies and gentlemen, approval of the January 14th minutes. Mr. Roeder.
Madam Chairman and members of Planning Commission, there are 3 sets of minutes, and they're long, and I've read them all, but we have a really good staff person who does a wonderful job, and so I would recommend that the minutes all be approved as presented.
As presented. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Is there a
Second.
second? I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, we
Can
are
I-
adjourned.
can I ask one question?
Yes, sir.
This is more of a concept, Mr. Riddick, but when we're talking about all these developments and we look at the promontory who may be over school densities for their particular development because they're later to the table, is there not any way in the state to go back and say, you've got X number of developments, and when that school threshold is hit, then all developers are responsible for a certain amount of money?
And that's the whole problem, Tom, is this whole school proffer business is just a giant mess. Because the law says you can't ask for proffers for when there is, for schools, when there's capacity in the schools. And frankly, the school system is just, they will not tell you, their calculation process is proprietary. They won't share that with.
That's true.
They will not share that with anybody, how they come up to the, so that's the burning bush. You have to go to them and ask them for the numbers. And it's exasperating.
And then Lynn comes back and says there's no problem.
They'll say there's no problem, and then everybody's complaining because, okay, you didn't get any, but, okay, you can't ask for schools if they're not in the CIP, and you can't